Say it with me now. Everyone's four favorite words. Happy pitchers and catchers. The Cardinals 2025 season is officially underway. I'm Katie Woo. He's Trevor Rosenthal. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory. Let's get after it.
Yeah, welcome back. Let's go. We're getting really close to having actual baseball to talk about. So I've
Yes.
been waiting for a while for this. I've been treading water. We made it. We're here. Pitchers and catchers report. Four great words, Katie. You nailed it. Let's see what we have to look forward to with this Cardinals camp.
You know, I'll recognize the elephant in the room. I know this camp feels a little different. It's definitely been a different offseason. And I know fan morale, just going through comments on The Athletic, comments on our YouTube page, it's pretty split. I think some of us want to be optimistic and some are rather apathetic or pessimistic. And I understand any emotion. But for me today, it was so great to walk up to Roger Dean. It's like 85 degrees in Jupiter. I heard it's snowing in St. Louis. That sucks. Not here. And the first day, pitchers and catchers report day, is kind of like orientation. You know, in high school, like you'd have the day before the first day of school. That's how it felt today. There were no like scheduled workouts or anything, just people catching up and hanging out. And I was like, you know what? Everyone here is happy to be here. And I feed into it. So I'm optimistic for the 2025 season. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I'm excited to be a part of it and tell the story. No matter what, win or lose, we're going to have fun.
Yeah, I like this time of year. It's crazy how much the game has changed. I remember in 2000, what was my first? I don't know. 2012 was my first big league spring training, and at that time there were players that I would talk to because I'm a curious guy by nature. So I would ask them like, "Hey, what's your off-season program look like? What have you been training? Where are you at in your throwing program?" And there were literally guys not that long ago that would show up and be like, "Oh, I just put on my cleats for the first time. Like this is the first time I've touched a baseball since the season ended last year." And I agree with you. It's exciting because as you saw today, there's guys working out. You can tell they're ready to go. I mean, games are not that far away. Games start the 22nd, so not too long after 10 days after pitchers and catchers report. So guys have to show up ready to go. And I think, as we're looking at the Cardinals for this new season, the changes that are going to be made, we got to build some momentum, right? Like this new culture, the changes that they're wanting to make to rebuild this system and see what they have. I mean, we got to be starting off on the right foot.
And I think this is the perfect spring to see it because, I walked in and granted there's probably about a third of big league camp here today on Tuesday. And I was, for the first time, I looked around and I said, oh my gosh, I think I might be older than almost everybody in this clubhouse. And I have not experienced that before, but there are a ton of young guys in there. And then I look over on the staff side of the room, a ton of new staff, new faces. So it definitely feels like a reset, like a transition. Of course, there are the people that you have spent years with, but walking in, I was like, I have some work to do. I have some people to get to know, some names and faces to learn. And when I'm sure we're going to spend so much time in the spring talking about the overhaul to the minor league system because everyone is here and we'll get to see these coordinators in action. Already within the first 30 minutes of being on in the complex today, I was talking to a couple people in the clubhouse and they mentioned the amount of work that new catching coordinator Ethan Goforth has put in with Ivan Herrera. And little did I know that Ivan Herrera was going to start throwing in the backfield. So I was like, hey, can I come watch you? He goes, yeah, of course. He's actually a little preview of what's coming in the Athletic this week. Spent part of the winter in Tampa at Driveline, completely new throwing program. And both bullpen catcher Jamie Pogue and their catching coordinator Ethan Goforth were part of this to kind of revamp Herrera's arm. We know about the arm troubles last year. They weren't great. So that's something I was interested to see. And like right off the bat, you see guys like Herrera was really excited about the work that he put in. So again, I'm feeding off that excitement and optimism, and there will be stories and there will be plenty of things to talk about potentially as early as Sunday. All right, let's get into it. It's time for our bi-monthly check-in on Nolan Arenado, who is still a St. Louis Cardinal. So the most pressing question of the winter for the Cardinals, Trevor, was if Nolan Arenado was going to be a St. Louis Cardinal. And now it's their most pressing question of the spring. So not exactly a good sign that your offseason went according to plan when you roll into spring training and you didn't answer your most pressing question of the winter. However, he is still a Cardinal. He is expected to be here by Sunday, which is position player reporting deadline. and the Cardinals are still actively trying to trade him. The issue, it's been the same thing since December. Alex Bregman remains unsigned, so it's created a logjam of effect. Really, I feel like the Cardinals are being held a little hostage by Bregman at this point. But one thing to note, they still remain engaged with the Boston Red Sox. It sounds like that's the most likely fit if a trade does happen. However, the Red Sox are still in conversations with signing Alex Bregman. There are about 5 other teams involved in that, and nothing looks close to a resolution. So while the Cardinals continue to talk to the Red Sox, that is just kind of like doing your due diligence. In case this trade happens, in case Bregman goes somewhere else, the Cardinals want to be able to slide right back in and pick up where they left off. I did hear they'd exchange some player names, but I'm unclear on which players would be involved in a hypothetical trade. It is believed, though, that Arenado would waive his no trade clause, unlike the Houston situation a couple of months ago. So I'll ask you, Trevor, is he getting traded or is he a Cardinal on opening day?
I'm still in the camp. It seems like he has to get traded because they put such an emphasis on it. Certainly, you would have to imagine they've lost some leverage, mainly because of Bregman, mainly because the timing right now. Teams are well aware that this is a move that St. Louis wants to make. So I think I'd be interested to hear your perspective. Is this a situation where the Cardinals are trying to not have to give up as much in terms of eating dollars that are left on Nolan's contract? And then also the players that they get in return. I mean, how picky can St. Louis be at this point?
They can't be picky at all. You're spot on. They have no leverage. I mean, every person in baseball knows that the Cardinals do not want Nolan Arenado on their baseball team. Now, if he remains a Cardinal, I'm this is not a hot take by any means, but he makes the team better. If Nolan Arenado is your third baseman, you have a pretty good third baseman and a pretty strong right-handed bat in your lineup. But the reason, we talked about this all offseason long. They want to let the kids play. They want to create playing time for Gorman and Sajaci, et cetera. And I think Nolan wants to go and play for a committed contender where the Cardinals have taken a step back in that regard. Now, it's important to note here that while he's expected to report on Sunday at the latest, the Cardinals, both John Mozeliak and Nolan Arenado, have not set a hard deadline on a trade needing to be decided by a certain date. Cardinals will continue to negotiate into the spring. Nolan, I'm sure, wants some clarity. I think he just wants to know if I'm getting traded, is Boston a logical possibility? Is this legit, or am I going to be a Cardinal? And then he'll lock in. Remember, it's not like he's demanding to get out of here. If the Cardinals can't trade Nolan and he remains in St. Louis, I don't think we're going to see a big pity party. I think he's going to be like, all right, well, I couldn't get traded. The teams that I wanted weren't interested in me. The Cardinals could not figure it out, so I'm going to prove some people wrong. Now, a big holdup in this, minus Bregman, is something you talked about. It's the money. The Cardinals are not going to just eat the majority of this contract. Now, are they willing to be a little bit more flexible now than they were in December? Yes, but not to the point where teams are willing to re-engage. The Yankees have been pretty strict in their initial conversations, as in they don't want their payroll to go any higher. They're not going to take on any more additional salary. The Cardinals, and remember, this is a Bill DeWitt Jr. decision, not necessarily a Mo decision in terms of how much money the organization can eat, have been pretty reluctant to eat any more. So it's this perfect storm of all of these factors that make a trade really complicated. But I'm with you, Trevor. As long as Alex Bregman does not go to Boston, I think Arenado will be traded by the middle of spring. And I mean it this time. I know I've been very inconsistent on my beliefs, but this one, it feels like his best chance in being traded will come the middle of spring. And I'd even go as far. I think that Arenado front will pick up really quickly.
Okay. I'm wondering too, you mentioned if he reports on Sunday, how awkward is that media scrum? What do you ask him, especially if we're all thinking he's going to be traded? It's just a matter of time. I mean, what do you talk to a guy like that about?
Yeah, I have also thought about this. And I've also thought about, this might be a little awkward. And I've said this on the show before. Nolan Arenado has been a pro to the media in the 4 years he's been here. I mean, there have been days where he has not wanted to talk and has said, hey, I don't really want to do it. I hope you guys understand. And we do. And then he's left the clubhouse and come back and he'll say, actually, no, let's just do it. This is part of my obligation or what I signed up for as a player. He's taken the heat multiple times in 2024 when the offense was bad, instead of having a younger guy who didn't come through in a situation, he would wait for us in the clubhouse to make it clear that he was going to be the designated player to talk about the offense. That happened at least 3 or 4 times last year. So it will be awkward. But, Arenado's a veteran. He's been in this league over 10 years. He knows how these things are going to go. It's not like, again, he didn't demand the trade. Mo asked him if this was something that he wanted. He agreed that it would probably be the best decision. I don't think we can ignore the tension or the awkwardness, but I think overall he'll be a pro about it. We are scheduled to talk to Ollie Marmol and John Mozeliak for the first time Wednesday morning. That's tomorrow. So I'm interested to see what Mo has to say about it. I can't imagine it'd be very easy to talk to the exact same group of people that you did 2 months ago, talking about how Arenado is, they intend to trade him at priority 1, 2, and 3. Trevor, if you don't accomplish priority 1, 2, and 3 over your offseason, especially if those options are actually the same thing, is that a good offseason or no?
Well, yeah, I mean, it pretty much sums up the offseason. I think we're very much still in it. And so there's still some time, maybe 12 hours or so, but we're running out of time to check those things off. I mean, I'm a procrastinator, but you would think someone in the hot seat would not wait until the last minute. But no, I agree. I think Nolan's a professional. I've enjoyed following him on social media this offseason. It's very clear that he is eager to prove his, fill those holes that he had last year. We talk about maybe the swing or the power, whatever it may be, but he's been intentional about posting the work that he's been putting in, and he looks good. So I agree. He's a professional, and it's all going to work out in the end.
I think we should commend Nolan. He hasn't been on Instagram for very long, maybe about a year, but he's really picked it up. It's an interesting account to follow. It's hard being both a professional athlete and an influencer, I guess, but he does a good job. I'm excited to see how that turns out. I feel like at this point, we waited 4 months to figure out if he was going to get traded or not. It would be the most Cardinals thing ever for him to get traded like Saturday night. And then I'm mad. Because I stressed all week over how this press conference is going to go, only for us to have to scramble. So when that happens, just think of me and just know I'm in a bad mood.
Katie, don't be mad. We're happy. It's spring training.
It is.
Every team is on a level playing field right now. We're happy.
You're right. And you know what? We're going to get into our spring predictions because there's a lot to be happy or optimistic or talk about. But first, we need to hear from our friends at Hungryroot.
Kratz, do you like spending an hour on grocery shopping?
Nope. Speed up the process, please.
Introducing Hungryroot to the FT fam.
Now we can all be bougie with our own personal shopper to handle the food shopping, including recs based on what you're looking to put in your body.
I stack my Hungryroot box with items like gluten-free, dairy-free blueberry waffles for breakfast, shrimp veggie bowls for lunch, and a little filet mignon with potatoes and broccolini for dinner.
You can also say just, hey, Hungryroot, I eat paleo, or I'm vegetarian, and they load up your cart with personalized recommendations.
And those recs keep evolving as they learn about what you're into. Also, no BS, as in no artificial sweeteners or preservatives in any of Hungryroot's food. You're going to love Hungryroot as much as FT does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/FT and use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT, code FT to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life.
Oh, I'd give that transition like a 6 out of 10. I was a little premature, and then I left the banner up. Wasn't my best work. We took a step back, but next week, at least I did it. You know what? That's the baseline. And do I actually do the ad, the live read? I did. Was it executed well? No, not so much. Whatever.
Not mid-season form.
No, I'm very much like ramping up, like soft toss, There
we go.
All right. Did I spell predictions wrong? Oh no. I spelled predictions wrong. Hold on. We're gonna hide it. Give me your initial spring prediction, Trevor. I have a couple, but I'm interested to see your big storyline coming into pitchers and catchers. What is it?
Big storyline coming into pitchers and catchers. For me, I'm a bullpen guy, obviously, closer for the Cardinals. And so when I look at the bullpen, I like the flexibility. I like the options. I'm not really too concerned about what they have in the bullpen, especially coming off of last year. A strong bullpen, lost a couple guys, but we still have Helsley. We still have some guys that are going to be anchors out there. And if not, there's options. So we can shuffle guys in and out. The The interesting thing for me specifically on the pitching side is the starting pitching. Just to see what the strategy ends up being. I know it's going to take a few weeks as we get into the games for guys to get stretched out, but just to see what that strategy ends up being. I know there's people that have talked about 6-man rotation. We've talked about who's going to be in the rotation. We know we have Sonny Gray. We know we have Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis, and the few others. But I'm interested. I think the starting rotation for me is going to be the most interesting storyline as we go through these first couple of weeks in spring training.
I think so too. It's certainly going to be something that I'm looking at because we talked a lot about the youth movement, but that's a pretty veteran heavy rotation. I mean, you named the big three, right? Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis. And I think Sonny Gray is your ace. That's always a good sign, right? I feel like the Cardinals feel very confident with him as their number one. I have no idea how the rest of the pitchers are going to slot in. I have no idea where Steven Matz is going to be, where Andre Palante is going to be, if Michael McGreevy is going to slide in there. And for the first time in a while, there are like 6, I would call them plan A options. And there are a ton of plan Bs that could easily make their way in. So you're thinking Matthew Liberatore, you're thinking Zach Thompson. I wouldn't quite put Quinn Matthews on that list just because, there's no real need to rush him. But if he has a great spring and, anything can happen, I'm cautious, right? Because there's never a spring, no matter what team you are, where all 7 of your projected starting pitchers, the 5 that you think are going to come in and the 2 you have in for emergencies, leave healthy. So depth is going to get tested at your rotation at some point. For the first time, I think the Cardinals have, knock on wood, a good amount of depth to cover them if, God forbid, an injury does happen. Miles Michaelis is a guy that I'm interested to see how he shows up to spring. We know the last 2 years did not go well after his all-star campaign in 2022. He's on the final year of his contract, and fans, for the most part, are just like, why? Why is he back in the rotation? We know what he is. Correct. It's not been a good 2 years for him production-wise, but there is a durability standpoint about Miles Michaelis that I think is so undervalued. And this as a pitcher, being able to take the ball every 5 days or whenever you need it, and then post, which is what he does. That's going to go wonders for a team that could be relying on some unproven talent, like the McGreevy's of the world. Palante has proven himself to an extent, but he's certainly not going to be able to log the amount of innings that we saw Miles Michaelis or Kyle Gibson do last year. Sonny Gray, we talked about being an ace. He's not necessarily one that goes super deep into games all of the time. He's usually like your 6 innings quality start, get him out of there. So I understand opening the season with a proven veteran that can throw 6, 7, 8 innings each start. Certainly we'd like the quality of those innings to be a little bit better. And that's why I think Miles' spring is so important, so they can see if the quality of those innings will indeed turn around. Yeah, and then like I said, like with the seeing what the strategy is, with really getting our first look at what this new regime is going to be focused on. You mentioned that you saw a lot of new faces in the building just in the past 24 hours. But that's what I'm going to be interested to see is, you mentioned Miles Michaelis. What happens when he's not able to post? What happens when, aside from injuries, the performance isn't there for one of these guys? How is the front office going to approach that? What's going to be their strategy? How are they going to get creative? I think there's a lot of room for creativity. I think we're going to get a glimpse at what the future for St. Louis and the St. Louis Cardinals organization looks like under Chaim Bloom. And so hopefully we get an idea here in spring. I like I said, it's hard because it takes a few weeks, and it's really not until we get into the season, maybe a couple weeks into the season, where we see some bullpen roles, where we see what the starting pitching is going to look like once these guys are going into the 6th and 7th inning. But yeah, I'm interested just to see what this new strategy, what their focus is going to be, and how they're going to be able to create wins. And I know as fans, we're all looking forward to that. An organization that has done a good job of winning, and we've been disappointed the last couple of years, but we're just by a hair on the winning side of a 162 game season. So, I think we have an opportunity to improve on that, but the floor for the St. Louis Cardinals has always been pretty high. Yeah. And look, again, it was an 83 win team last year. They had a great bullpen. The majority of that roster, minus Paul Goldschmidt and Andrew Kittredge, is coming back. Let's go back to the bullpen, because I think that's so fascinating. they got Helsley, Ryan Helsley, who, by the way, is still rocking that stash. Let's see how long that lasts. And you already know he's going to be our closer in the 9th inning. How the Cardinals shape the rest of their bullpen, I think, is up in the air. To me, it's the most wide open competition of camp. And well, I know that they were contemplating signing a veteran reliever to kind of shore up those innings. They didn't do that. We talked about maybe Steven Matz being an option there. I think there's a way the Cardinals can, and make this, to be clear, do a good job in this of filling their rotation entirely internally, or their bullpen, and having that bullpen still be very effective comparative to last year. Because now I don't want to diminish the loss of Kittredge. That's huge. He was invaluable as the setup man. You have JoJo Romero from the left side. I thought Ryan Fernandez in his rookie year was really impressive. He took some major strides, especially in the second half. As a Rule 5 guy, you gotta, you can't get sent down, because then you risk being returned to your club. You have to find a way to stay in the majors and produce. And he did that. And he even got some high leverage stuff in August and September as the Cardinals kind of branched away from competing and looked more towards the transition year. And he did pretty well. Matthew Liberatore, like we said, will be stretched out as a starter, but that's pretty common practice. You want pitching depth early in spring because there are just so many games and so many innings to cover, and not everyone is ramped up, obviously, to go 6 right out the gate. But he's one of those players that if, you build him up and you can easily bring him back to 2-3 innings, that's, a no-brainer. Who else, though, can fill that? I'm looking at guys like Gordon Graceffo, who, by the way, will be a guest on Cardinal Territory. Trevor, I forgot to tell you that, but that's next week. So we're very excited for Gordon. And there's a bunch of NRI guys. Nick Anderson, he interests me. He is signed to a non-roster invite. Most recently pitched for the Royals. He was a dude for the Rays back in 2019. Can one of those guys step up? I love the first week, because you go to the backfields and guys are throwing, 3-4 bullpens at a time, and you're just watching, and you can tell by the pitching coaches and the instructors who's throwing well, who's surprising. Last year it was Riley O'Brien, who just lit up TrackMan, lit up their analytics, and there was a buzz about him for like 3 straight days because they thought they found something. Now, obviously, Riley had a tough season. He spent most of it hurt, but he's back. And every year there's a name that we're not thinking of that forces themselves on the scene, and we're going to find out that name in the next couple of days. So I'm excited about it.
Let's go. That was Trevor Rosenthal back in the day, bursting on the scene, creating a buzz. But you're right. I mean, you're going to be in the thick of it, Katie. You're going to get an idea of who they're excited about, and it really is all about first impressions. If I'm a Gordon Graceffo, if I'm a Nick Anderson, even Quinn Matthews, for all purpose sake. I mean, if you come in and you create that buzz and you ride the wave, build some momentum, who knows? It could get real interesting as the team gets ready to break camp. And I'm all for one of these guys getting a crack at the roster that we didn't necessarily expect.
Quinn Matthews, quirky dude, great talent. This happened for the first time ever today. I'm walking to the backfields and I walked past field 1, and Quinn's playing catch. And I've never had a player stop what they're doing, playing catch, and turn around and talk to me and be like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on? How was your spring?" And I'm like, "Okay." Pitchers and players are so locked in, but he was so casual. He's, to me, a total pitcher. You know what I mean?
Left-handed.
Yep. He is a total left-handed pitcher. And I just think the excitement around him is deserved. The hype is deserved. It's been a while since the Cardinals really had a solidified homegrown pitching prospect. I think the last one that I think the organization was really excited about was Jack Flaherty. Could that be Quinn Matthews this year? We will find out. Trevor, is there anything else? Any player that you are excited to see? Doesn't necessarily have to be a pitcher, but we can stick to the theme. But just one that you feel is like, hey, this is a big year for him. What are you looking for early on? Anyone in particular?
I mean, I think it's a big year for a lot of these guys. I think a lot of guys coming off of last season, we saw it at winter warmup. They feel like there's something to prove. They want to reestablish what the St. Louis Cardinals are all about, and the theme of the young guys or whatever it may be. I think everybody has their own storyline. You mentioned Riley O'Brien, so he's a guy I wasn't aware until you just said it that the team was excited about his analytics and how he lit up the TrackMan last spring training. But this offseason, I've watching some video of guys that I wasn't familiar with. He was one that stood out, and unfortunate with the injuries, but I think he's a guy that I'm going to be paying attention to. If this organization can find a way to keep him healthy, help him maximize those analytics. I mean, we know in this game, analytics are really important, and that's how you can find a diamond in the rough. And maybe not necessarily a guy that's posted and put up a bunch of numbers, but if we can find a way to get him on the field and use those analytics to his advantage, there might be something there. There might be, and not necessarily next Ryan Helsley, but he might be a guy that really helps out this bullpen in 2025. So that's for me. What about you, Katie? I know Jordan Walker.
Yep, saw him today. He was at the complex early. A bunch of guys have been here early. I'm going to go back to Herrera because we know about the Cardinals and their offense issues last year. If St. Louis trades Arenado, other than Wilson Contreras and Jordan Walker, if he figures it out offensively, you're really missing a right-handed bat with thump. And that could be Ivan Herrera because he's kind of a bat-first catcher. And the only reason I say that is because his throwing last season really diminished his defensive value. But he can hit. He can rake. He has power. He's relatively fast for a catcher. If he can find a way to, have a more accurate arm, to cut down the run game on opposing base runners, I think he has an edge over Pedro Pajes to be the starting catcher. Now, again, I don't think the Cardinals have necessarily committed to who they have in their minds as catcher A and catcher B. They could platoon, but it's a big spring for Herrera, who, again, felt so confident about his arm, was really excited to talk about some of the changes that he made. It could be a big spring for him. And I think he has a chance to run away with the starting job because they certainly need his bat, especially if Arenado is not in a Cardinals uniform come opening day.
I agree. And if we're going to be singing the praises of Driveline, depending on this throwing. How do you look? How was this throwing today? So
he threw 9 total times, 3 times third, 3 times to second, 3 times to first. I worked very hard today, as you could tell. The throws to second, there was significant more pop. I felt like they were, the ones to third and first, it's hard to draw a sample size off just 9 throws. But the ones to second were much more accurate. And again, you don't want to overdo it on the very first day, but he was pretty excited about it. So I'm going to go and talk to more people, assuming they don't run away from me, and try to figure out a little bit more about Herrera and the changes he made and what they want to see. But I can't even begin to tell you how excited the organization is in having a catching coordinator. They have not had one since the Yadier Molina days because you didn't need one. But this hire is long overdue. Here's how I'm going to leave our loyal listeners of Cardinal territory. I'm going to leave you with some words of wisdom. If you're looking for a reason to be optimistic about this 2025 team, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you never know. They could win 90 games. They could surprise some people. I'm not going to hit you with all the cliches. I am going with what I think is true. This 2025 season has the opportunity for the next Cardinals core to start to form. And if you're not quite sold that the 2025 roster in itself can win this year, I don't blame you. I am going to try to convince you that some pieces here can win. And at the bare minimum, the pieces that excel here will be a part of what, the next Memphis Mafia or the next Cardinals team that I think would really embody what St. Louis baseball is about. And I asked this question a couple of times to guys that want to warm up. You have the opportunity to be the next face of the Cardinals, right? If you're Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Jordan Walker, go down the list. This is your chance to start being a part of that mission. And if you're not necessarily sold on the roster, the coaching staff, the front office, can you at least be sold on some of these players and their futures? I think that's something to look forward to. And I don't know, it gets me excited just thinking about how we could be witnessing the beginning of something new. And I know it's been a rough 2 years in St. Louis. I know maybe that this Pitchers and Catchers Day might feel a little different to others. I get it. But we do have the opportunity of maybe seeing the next core start to come to fruition this year. And so that's different. And different doesn't always have to be bad.
And speaking of core, we're excited about the catching coordinator. We're excited about what seems to have a positive impact with the new hitting coach. But Cord, we have Daniel Descalzo, John Jay, and a special guest instructor with David Freese. Those 3 guys. That's to me really strong. 3 strong core guys of what the St. Louis Cardinals are. So you mix that positive influence with some of this impressionable young talent. I agree with you. I mean, there's a real opportunity for us to see this core really emerge. And I'm in the bucket of let's definitely surprise some people. Let's have a good year. Let's win. That makes everything, that makes all our problems go away at the end of the day. Winning is good. But I'm excited to see kind of behind the scenes and what I'm a big fan of Descalzo, Jay, Freeze, Ollie Marmol. He's been a lifelong Cardinal. The impact that they have on these younger players I think is going to be really special and very meaningful for the next step that these guys are able to take. So I'm right there with you, Katie. It's something to be excited about.
And you're spot on, because if you're looking for a core that knows how to, be homegrown and win, you're looking at guys like Daniel Descalzo, John Jay, David Freeze. They certainly know how to do it. And they, in my opinion, you are exactly right, are the guys to help instill this new wave. So we will get to see that in action as early as tomorrow. There will be bullpens thrown tomorrow, Trevor. There will be baseball to an extent. Every single pitcher should be here on Wednesday, and we'll hear again from John Mozeliak and Ollie Marmol. And then this thing will start to feel real. Yeah, we made it, guys. Winter is over, unless you're in St. Louis and it's still snowing. I'm just going to rub it in. Sorry.
You should.
Yeah, I'm going to. All right. Are you ready, Trevor? Are you ready for the baseball season?
You're my boots on. I'm going to be calling you tomorrow about 3:00. How'd the boys look? What's going on? Were the mitts popping? You're the boots on the ground, Katie, and maybe flip-flops. Boots maybe if you were in St. Louis with all the pedestrians, but you're the high life down in Jupiter, Florida. The palm trees, the beach.
Yes, and Utiki, which is where I'm headed next. Hopefully it's still happy hour. Well, it's only 2:30 right now, so I'm plenty of time. I'm chilling. For Trevor Rosenthal, I'm Katie Woo. Welcome back to baseball season, you guys. We've made it. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you, Trevor, and to our listeners and subscribers. So we'll be back with you at the end of the week with an update. Stay tuned and lock in, guys. Baseball season is back. We'll talk to you in a couple days.